Most people believe that a lack of discipline is a moral defect, a weakness of character, a missing virtue that some are born with and others are not. But what if that idea was never true? Your brain was not designed for discipline. It was designed for survival. This is not a metaphor, it is biology. Across millions of years, the human mind evolved to preserve energy, avoid pain, and seek immediate reward. Every impulse you fight today was once the very thing that kept your ancestors alive. The desire to rest, the attraction to sweetness, the urge to escape discomfort. These instincts are ancient codes written in your nervous system long before society existed. When you choose the couch instead of the gym, your brain believes it's protecting you. When you open your phone instead of your notebook, it believes it's choosing safety, a predictable source of dopamine instead of uncertainty and effort. The brain isn't lazy, it's efficient. And efficiency in primitive terms meant survival. But then the world changed. Comfort became abundant, effort became necessary, and the same brain that once helped us endure the wild now betrays us in the modern age. It clings to short-term pleasure and resists every demand for long-term growth. That's why forcing yourself through sheer willpower feels like swimming against a current older than civilization itself. You are not weak, you are fighting evolution. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, described this paradox perfectly. Discipline doesn't come from force, it comes from design. The people we call disciplined are not stronger, nor more motivated. They have simply built systems and environments that make the right action the easiest one. They do not fight their brain, they trick it. And this is where true transformation begins, not by declaring war on your impulses, but by understanding them. By realizing that the path to mastery is not resistance, but redesign. We live trapped inside an ancient machine, built for a world that no longer exists. The brain you carry is the same one that guided hunters through forests and deserts, the same circuitry that once scanned for predators and firelight. It was not designed for abundance, it was designed for danger. Every modern comfort you experience confuses this old software. Food everywhere, lights that never fade, endless stimulation. The brain cannot distinguish between safety and stagnation. It only knows reward and risk, and so it seeks the familiar, the quick, the effortless. When you promise yourself that tomorrow you'll change, your brain nods politely, but it doesn't believe you. It only believes what it feels now, and what it feels now is fatigue, resistance, fear of uncertainty. That is why most resolutions die quietly. Not because people lack intention, but because they are trying to overwrite a system that was never meant to obey abstract goals. Think about it. For 99% of human history, the purpose of life was not progress. It was survival. Every time you move toward discomfort, a cold shower, an early alarm, a blank page, you're acting against instincts that were once sacred. You are, in a sense, rebelling against your own biology. This is why willpower collapses so easily. It is not a moral failure, it is an energy equation. The brain saves energy wherever possible, just as it did thousands of years ago when scarcity could kill. It always prefers the shortest path, the smallest effort, the guaranteed pleasure. Neuroscience calls this cognitive ease, the automatic preference for whatever feels simple, smooth, and safe. The tragedy is that we build lives that demand the opposite. We live surrounded by artificial lights, infinite choices, and constant noise. We expect focus in a world designed for distraction. We expect self-control while holding a device that delivers every possible reward in seconds. And still, we blame ourselves for being weak. But weakness is not the issue. Design is. You don't need more control. You need alignment between what your brain wants to do and what you want to become. That is the real art of discipline, not to overpower instinct, but to redirect it, to stop fighting the machinery and start engineering it. Because once the environment changes, the behavior follows. Discipline begins long before action. It starts in silence, in the architecture around you. Your environment is not neutral. It speaks to your brain in whispers too quiet to notice. A phone within reach, a couch in sight, a screen still glowing. Each one is a silent vote for who you will become. People believe self-control lives inside the mind, like a muscle waiting to be trained. But the truth is colder and more mechanical. Self-control lives in proximity and visibility and design. What is close feels easy. What is distant feels impossible. You can have the strongest intentions, but if your surroundings pull in the opposite direction, the environment will always win. That's why motivation fades. That's why good plans collapse. The battlefield of discipline isn't your thoughts. It's your space. Imagine this. You decide to start running every morning. You're inspired, ready, determined. But when you wake up, your clothes are buried somewhere in a drawer. Your shoes are in another room, the bed is warm, the phone is near, the path of least resistance is already set, and the brain, loyal to its programming, follows it perfectly. Now shift the design. The running clothes lie folded beside the bed. The alarm is placed across the room. Music begins the moment you rise. A friend waits for you outside. The new default is movement. Nothing changed inside you. The system around you changed for you. And that's what the disciplined truly understand. They don't rely on willpower. They rely on traps, gentle traps that lead to the right behavior without demanding heroic effort. James Clear calls this choice architecture, the invisible framework that makes good decisions automatic. When the right choice becomes the easiest one, the brain stops resisting. It simply follows the flow. Leave the book on your desk, not in a drawer. Turn off notifications. Hide what distracts you. Make temptation distant and growth near. Because every object in your field is a command. Every cue shapes identity. Discipline, then, is not about fighting the mind. It is about surrounding it with inevitability. When your environment becomes your ally, the need for willpower disappears. You no longer need to push yourself toward the right action. You are pulled by design. And that is how discipline begins to feel effortless, not because it is easy, but because it is engineered. The mind is a creature of repetition. It survives through patterns, through loops that repeat without question. Every day it follows invisible rituals, habits so deeply wired they unfold before awareness appears. You brush your teeth without thinking. You reach for your phone the moment you sit down. You drink coffee as soon as you enter the kitchen. These are not decisions. They are reflexes disguised as choices. Inside your brain, each of these loops follows the same ancient structure: cue, routine, reward. A signal appears. The body moves. The mind receives a small hit of satisfaction. The loop closes, and the pattern strengthens. This is how identity is written, through repetition, not intention. But it is also how identity can be rewritten. The secret is not to create new habits through force, but to attach them to the ones already alive. James Clear calls this habit stacking, the art of hijacking existing behavior loops to install new ones. You do not fight the current, you redirect it. After brushing your teeth, you meditate for 2 minutes. After making coffee, you open your journal and write a single line. After locking the door, you take one deep breath before facing the day. These small, almost invisible actions begin to chain together. They form a network, a self-reinforcing system of signals and rewards. And then something miraculous happens. Discipline stops feeling like a choice. It becomes momentum. The hardest part of any action is the beginning, the ignition. Once motion starts, inertia carries it forward. Habit stacking removes that first wall. It takes what your brain already does automatically and laces a new behavior onto it. Over time, the two become inseparable, like vines twisting around the same branch. But there's a rule here. You cannot attach chaos to chaos. The new habit must be small, precise, immediate. Read 1 page, not a chapter. Stretch for 30 seconds, not half an hour. Write a sentence, not a manifesto. Because the mind does not trust large beginnings. It trusts closure, completion, however small. Every loop you complete releases a signal of satisfaction. That signal is the language of the brain. The more often it hears done, the more it craves the process that leads there. This is how you trick it, not by punishment, but by reward. Not by pressure, but by rhythm. Discipline, then, is not the suppression of desire. It is the intelligent redirection of reward. And as the loops multiply, something subtle begins to happen. The chaos within you starts to organize itself. You begin to see patterns where before there was noise. The act of discipline becomes less about control and more about harmony. Even with all this knowledge, most people still fall into the same trap. They know what to do. They even know how to do it. And yet they wait. They postpone. They scroll. They sink into guilt. We call it procrastination as if it were a disease of the lazy. But procrastination is not laziness. It is poor design. When you delay action, it's not because you lack ambition. It's because the system you live in demands too much energy to begin. The cue is hidden. The reward is distant. The effort is high. And the brain, designed to conserve energy, makes the only logical decision. It waits. It always waits. The brain doesn't ask, what will make me proud in a month? It asks, what will make me feel safe right now? And the answer, almost always, is comfort. This is why understanding design becomes liberation. Because once you see that procrastination is structural, you stop blaming yourself and start rebuilding the architecture of action. James Clear described 4 invisible laws that govern every habit you have. They are simple, yet ruthless in their truth. Make it obvious. The brain ignores what it cannot see. Hide a book in a drawer and it becomes forgotten. Leave it on your desk and it begins to whisper. The first rule of discipline is visibility. What is visible becomes real. Make it attractive. You cannot fight your own wiring, you must seduce it. Associate the habit with pleasure, a song, a scent, a ritual. The brain obeys emotion before reason. If the process feels good, the repetition continues. Make it easy. Every ounce of friction kills momentum. Reduce the steps. Simplify. Shrink the action until it becomes too small to reject. The goal is not to be heroic. It is to be consistent. Make it satisfying. The brain learns only through reward. Without a sense of completion, there is no attachment, no craving to repeat. Every time you finish a task, give yourself proof of progress, a mark, a note, a quiet acknowledgement that says done. These 4 laws form the skeleton of discipline. Ignore any one of them, and the system collapses. Think of someone trying to study every night. Their books are buried, the desk is cluttered, the phone glows nearby. The task is vague. Study for an hour, and there's no clear reward at the end. What happens? The brain calculates. Too much friction, too little pleasure. The decision is made long before the thought appears. Not tonight. Now, change the design. The book is already open. The desk is clear. Soft music plays. The phone is distant. The goal, just 5 minutes. When finished, a small ritual. Checking a box, sipping tea, a quiet nod of satisfaction. That's all it takes. The brain doesn't need a revolution. It needs evidence. When you repeat this small structure enough times, procrastination stops feeling like a curse. It becomes a signal, a quiet message saying, the system isn't right yet. You don't need to try harder. You need to build smarter. And that shift, from effort to structure, is where freedom begins. There is a dangerous idea in modern productivity culture that to become disciplined, you must love the process. Fall in love with the routine, they say. Find joy in the grind. But this idea, repeated endlessly, has quietly destroyed more potential than failure ever did. You don't need to love discipline. You need to make it inevitable. Highly productive people are not romantic about routine. They are strategic about friction. They do not wake up each morning burning with motivation. They wake up surrounded by design. Look closely at their lives and you will see patterns, not passion. The running shoes beside the bed, the phone alarm placed far away, the playlist that begins automatically at dawn, a friend waiting outside, systems that make movement the default, not the exception. The truth is that most days they don't feel like doing it either. They feel tired, distracted, human, but they've built a structure that leaves no space for negotiation. When emotion fades, architecture remains. That is the difference between those who act and those who wait. The first rely on systems, the second rely on feelings, and feelings, by nature, are fragile. The brain obeys what is easiest. If you design your surroundings so that the right action requires less energy than avoidance, you win. It's not about discipline, it's about gravity. You make the right choice fall into place. Stop trying to convince yourself to enjoy it. Stop waiting for desire. You are not supposed to crave discomfort. You are supposed to design for it. When the system is right, even the hardest tasks become mechanical, small rituals that unfold whether you're inspired or not. That is when discipline stops being an act of will and becomes a reflection of identity. You stop asking, "Do I feel like it today?" You start acting because that's what I do. James Clear captured this truth with disarming precision. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Your future will not be built on bursts of motivation, but on invisible routines that outlast emotion. That is why discipline is not about passion. It is about inevitability. To make progress, you don't need to light a fire inside you. You need to remove everything that puts it out. The world tells you to chase motivation, the wise design for motion. Beneath every habit lies a belief about who you are. And until that belief changes, nothing truly transforms. You can force a behavior for weeks, even months, but eventually, your identity reclaims control. The mind always returns to the story it believes about itself. If deep down you think, "I'm inconsistent," you will find ways to prove it. If you think, "I'm not the kind of person who finishes things," your actions will bend to match the narrative. The opposite is also true. When you see yourself as the kind of person who follows through, every small action becomes proof of that identity. And proof compounds faster than motivation ever could. James Clear called this the deepest level of behavior change, the shift from outcomes to identity. You don't act your way into identity. You vote for it, one small decision at a time. Each time you choose structure over chaos, you cast a vote. Each time you train, even briefly, you cast a vote. Each time you pick the book instead of the phone, you cast a vote. No single vote defines you, but together they rewrite the character you play in your own story. This is how self-discipline becomes self-definition. At first, you are pretending, acting as if. But then the pretending becomes truth. The brain starts to adjust its self-image to match the evidence you keep providing. Neural pathways rewire, dopamine loops shift, the story stabilizes. And one morning, without realizing it, you stop asking how to stay disciplined. You simply are. The identity has taken root. The actions follow it like a shadow. Discipline is no longer about forcing behavior. It's about aligning who you think you are with who you wish to become. When that alignment happens, the effort dissolves. Action flows naturally. This is the moment the illusion breaks. The realization that discipline was never the goal. It was a reflection. A mirror showing what you truly believe about yourself. In the end, discipline is not a battle. It is a design. It is not a moral victory. It is a structural one. For centuries, we have tried to conquer the mind with force, as if resistance were a sign of virtue. But the mind was never the enemy. It was only following its code, a program written in the language of survival. When you stop fighting it, you begin to see the truth. Discipline is not about winning against yourself. It is about creating a path where winning becomes effortless, a system where the brain and the self want the same thing. That is the quiet secret of every consistent person you've ever admired. They are not stronger, they are aligned. Their environment, their habits, their identity, all point in the same direction. This is the hidden architecture of freedom. Not the freedom to always do what you want, but the freedom to become who you are meant to be, without resistance. Because when you understand how your brain works, you no longer blame it. You design for it. You guide it gently, like water finding its course through stone. And suddenly, the impossible becomes natural. Action becomes effortless. Discipline becomes peace. You were never undisciplined. You were simply misaligned. Now you have a choice. Continue fighting yourself, or start redesigning the system you live in. Start small. Redesign one habit. Adjust one environment. Write one line that reminds you who you are becoming. And let that be your first vote for a new identity. If this message resonated with you, if it made you see your mind from a different angle, consider subscribing. Here, we go beyond productivity. We explore the machinery of consciousness and the hidden laws that shape the human soul.